Hello everybody, this is Lesson 1, Part 2. Lesson 1, Part 2. We've been talking about the quote here on page 1 in your note packet and discussing the differences and the ways they work together and the ways they don't, your personality, which is hardwired, and your character or interpersonal skill set, which is developed, which is always in flux, which is always changing, growing, getting better. They say, leaders or great leaders are made and not born, or I even forget it, the quote, but they're definitely made. Okay, it takes practice, and I know that there's that Saturday Night Live skit which happened years and years and years ago. So most of you probably won't know what I'm talking about. It was a guy smiley or would look in the mirror and say, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." Okay, this was, we poke fun of that and think that what is that doing? But those self-affirmations, although cheesy, do give an insight into developing one's perception of oneself, and that you can see yourself. And how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an effective leader? Do you see yourself as having the skill set to deal with a variety of situations, whether you're speaking to a big crowd for 45 minutes or you're working with a small group of people for several weeks? Do you have the skills to handle all of the curveballs that are thrown? Because preparation only gets you so far. Then you have curveballs, and you have somebody that's annoying in the group, or somebody that's causing problems or behavior issues, and can you deal with them? Can you just? You are relying on your interpersonal skill set to be an effective leader for individuals and for the groups as a whole. So we're looking at this quote, and this quote was basically saying you need to develop your interpersonal skill set while being comfortable in your own skin. You've got to be okay with who you are first before you can lead anybody else. So if you struggle with certain issues about yourself or certain things you dislike, the goal is to look at those things and say, why do I dislike them, and can I change them? If I can, yes. And if I cannot change them, how can I manage them? And move on and grow up from that, so that there's no personal baggage getting in the way of you being an effective leader. And when I say personal baggage, everybody's got it. Okay, everybody's got bad days, and they have circumstances in their lives and things that happen. But what you want to do is recognize that's baggage, and that's for me to deal with on my own time. But when I'm in a leadership position, I'm in front of people, I'm focused, I'm sincere, I'm open, and I'm using my strong skill set of interpersonal skills to be effective, to deliver the message, to deliver the program, whatever I've got to do. That's what Tom's saying here. He's like, you got to bring your A game. You've really got to step up to the plate, ready to go to bat, but be comfortable in your own skin. It's okay to be you. And I don't want you in this class. I'm going to throw out a lot of things of what a leader should do, what they shouldn't do. But then besides the really strong ethical points that I'm going to make, everything else is a gray area. Okay, so be comfortable with who you are. And I've seen some of the best leaders not be outgoing people. And I'll give you a perfect example. So I've got a decent leadership background. At least I would hope so. I guess I'm teaching this class enough leadership background anyway. And one of the stories I'm going to pull out for this lesson is there was an individual. This was in 1997. In 1997, I was training a group of ropes course facilitators, and I was doing that consistently for some years. And in this particular group, I remember one gentleman, and this gentleman was short, stocky, liked to wear sunglasses and his hat backwards. And look kind of tough. Kind of have the tough guy deal, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own thing going on, but super, super shy. And when I gave him when I would give him sample activities to do with groups, and I would evaluate him, they were very low scores. He wasn't personable. He was awkward. Had a real difficult time communicating with people, and man, I honestly have to admit that I wrote him off. I got to the point where I was saying that I don't really know where to start, because the list of incompetencies in terms of leadership and interpersonal skills are just way too high. I really don't know where to start with you, although I did give him some direction and said, here's where I think you should start. But I mean, honestly, it was short string. I didn't know if this guy was going to make it. But he stuck with the plan that I gave him, and he worked on developing various parts of his interpersonal skills. And I'll tell you though, and it was pretty amazing, within a year within a year, he was one of the top facilitators in the organization. I was blown away, unbelievably impressed with his ability to develop the skills he was lacking in the beginning. And since then, he has gone on to found his own leadership business, and he has been in that business successfully for over 6 years. And when I think about the history and seeing him at that particular age and going through what he did to become a very prominent leader, it is awe-inspiring. And I gave some direction, but it was him that overcame things that he needed to overcome, some personal baggage, deal with some things, and develop some interpersonal skills so that he could be open, funny. I had no idea this guy was so funny, but he wouldn't. In that first year, I just didn't know. He was so nervous and just definitely had some confidence issues, but got over that. Funny, outgoing, and very, very effective leader. So everyone can develop the skills that they need to be an effective leader in whatever medium it is. Okay, so no one is going to get the free pass on this one. Okay, and everyone's going to need some work, even though the folks that are the most naturally influential, like we talked about before. Yeah, sure, they might have this schmoozing, outgoing personality, but it's not going to save them every time. Everyone needs to develop good, solid interpersonal skills. Okay, and be able to lead from a variety of mediums. And what I mean by that is that if you're naturally an outgoing guy, kind of a dictator-style leadership, which isn't bad, that's great. So you're more authoritarian, that's great. But what you've got to do then is in this class, and maybe in other classes, develop your softer side. Okay, because you won't be able to connect with everybody if you have that particular side. And some of those of you that have that softer side need to be able to stand up and make some firm decisions. Okay, that might hurt some people's feelings throughout your leadership programs and throughout your leadership tenure or time that you're in those positions. Okay, I'm going to give you some more reading here. This is in Chapter 2. Chapter 2. And before I give you this reading, you'll notice that this book is mostly about adventure programming. And you might think, well, gosh, what does that have to do with some more traditional leadership roles? It has a lot to do with it. When we look at the adventure environment, the reason that we look at it is because that environment exists in your traditional leadership roles. It's just not discussed. And so when we look at adventure environments, it's more clearly visible what groups or the audience, or whoever you're speaking to or working with goes through. And so when we look at group development and how you're effective, the adventure medium really provides some good classic insights, which will be very beneficial if you're in more traditional leadership role like a teacher. Okay. So look at page 16 and 17 in the book, and this is in Chapter 2. There's your 16 and 17 are pretty good in defining structures in adventure programming. To look at that, these defining structures. Okay, and there's some concepts in there. You don't have to know them all, but it's really good to look over and continue that all the way through page 20. Actually all the way through looks like page 23, because then the next thing you have is what's called the process of adventure and mastery of learning, characteristic of problem solving. Take a look at those things, and those of course will eventually correspond with what we're talking about. Alright, so I've talked about page 1, just the quote in the note packet. And what I want to finish lesson 1 with is a discussion about the 3 primary roles of a leader. And here's the terminology for this class. You have facilitator, guide, and instructor. Facilitator, guide, and instructor. Of course, these things will be on your test. And these are the 3 primary leadership roles that we'll discuss when we say that the leader goes through, whether they're giving a 45-minute seminar or they're with a group for several weeks. A facilitator, which we've basically started talking about, A facilitator creates a learning process. Is moving a group from point A to B. And you might be like, well, what's point A and what's point B? I don't know. It's different for every group. Some group want to work on their communication skills. Some groups just want to hang out and have a good time. Some groups are there to learn a specific task. All right. You want to facilitate them, move them in a direction, help them develop their team, develop their interpersonal skills. Okay. A guide, on the other hand, a guide is probably one of the most laid-back leadership positions, and it's laid back as it is relaxed. You go, you do something, and the group goes with you, and they kind of watch you do it. Okay, a classic example is a guide. Climbing guide guides their team up the mountain. They help that team, those beginners, help them get up safely, help them get back down safely. They may pop into the other roles, but when you're guiding, you're simply doing something, and somebody might be doing it with you, and you're watching out for the group. In an instructor role, that's when you're actually teaching someone to do something. So there'll be times in your leadership where you actually stop and you're providing instruction, making sure that somebody is competent and learning how to do something you're teaching them. Okay, so guide, instructor, facilitator, and most of the time you'll be in the facilitator role, deciphering what is next in the program, what activity should I do next, how do I move this group to become better communicators, how do I help them do that. Now there might be some instruction in there, an instruction role, there might be some guiding or a guiding role, but mostly you'll be in the facilitator role. And when you're in that role, that's the most dynamic role, which requires a strong interpersonal skill set to be able to decipher what is needed and what's necessary. Because when you're the leader, everyone is looking to you.